You may have seen them, gaming enthusiasts now hooked on the latest digital craze, Pokemon Go. They turn up everywhere in search of the little creatures. Harmless fun? Well, that depends on who you ask. And tonight we are asking Dr. Paul Weigle, child psychiatrist with Natchaug Hospital. So, okay, the big positive with this game is that it gets young people out and about. Now, to me, they look like they're walking very slowly with their noses buried in their phones. I'm not sure I'd call it exercise, but at least they're out in the fresh air, not in the Barco Lounger, right?
Absolutely. Okay. Yes, that's something that no video game has ever done before. Actually motivate kids to want to go outside and explore.
And if they're exploring, maybe they cover plenty of territory and actually get some exercise, huh?
Absolutely. My son's been clocking 3 miles every day.
Hey, good for him. Okay, so there are already warnings, though, about paying attention where you go. Has that been a problem?
Absolutely. So, wonderful it is to go out and explore. Kids can run into dangerous situations if they're distracted by their phones while they're playing. So younger kids playing this game certainly need to be supervised. And even older kids and teenagers, it's important to review what the rules are. For example, where they're allowed to go and how they should conduct themselves around traffic, around strangers. And all kids should be reminded that they should never try to interact with their phone while they're riding a bike.
Or if they're driving a car, because anyone over 16, there are plenty of 16-year-olds and up playing this game as well.
Absolutely.
Don't do it behind the wheel.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so what about, addiction or obsession? We were just talking just a minute ago before we came on the air here. People can get obsessive about this.
That's absolutely right. So as games become more engaging and more sophisticated, we're seeing more and more young people who an excessive and unhealthy habit. And oftentimes it's not that the video game itself is unhealthy for kids, but it's what they're missing, that the excessive habit crowds out things like socializing, like reading for fun, adequate sleep, and that can be a problem. And most kids can have control over their habits and stop usually when it's time to, but some kids, they are so engaged and engrossed in the game that they actually lose control over their habits, and this can lead to a true behavioral addiction to video games.
Okay, so what advice, other than wait 30 minutes and another game will come along, what advice do you have for parents who might be concerned about, how deeply kids are getting into this Pokemon Go thing?
Absolutely. So if parents are concerned that their child may have an unhealthy or even an addictive habit, the first thing they need to do is simply set limits on the amount of time that kids are allowed to play. So, for example, 2 hours a day might be a reasonable example. Now, if kids are able to follow those rules without too much problem, then probably there is no problem. However, oftentimes in my practice, I'll see kids who have become so psychologically dependent on the game that they resist aggressively attempts to control their habits. They might even threaten the parent or themselves. And
that's when it's certainly time to take some kind of action, correct?
You're absolutely right.
Right.
And that action really should be to seek help from a qualified mental health professional, because treatment really works.
All right. Dr. Paul Weigle with Natchaug Hospital, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Audrey, back to you.
All right, Doctor.